Since early September 2025, Russian military aircraft and drones have repeatedly crossed into NATO airspace. Poland, Romania, and most recently Estonia. These aren't just accidents, they're deliberate probes designed to test NATO's defences, political unity, and rules of engagement. Today we'll break down these incidents, the bigger strategy behind them, and what it means for the future of NATO's eastern flank. But firstly, if you like my content, make sure to subscribe and give the video a like. It really helps me out. So let's start with the facts. On September 9th to 10th in Poland, 19 to 23 Russian drones entered Polish airspace overnight, while Moscow launched wider strikes on Ukraine. Polish airports were forced to close and NATO aircraft, including Dutch F-35s, were scrambled. For the first time since 2022, NATO shot down Russian assets directly inside the alliance's territory. Poland immediately invoked Article 4, demanding consultations with allies. Shortly after, on September the 13th, Poland and Romania experienced more drone activity. In Romania, one Russian Geran-type drone spent nearly 50 minutes inside Romania's airspace before returning to Ukraine. Romanian F-16s shadowed it but held fire, citing risks of debris falling on civilian areas. Then most recently, on September 19th, 3 Russian MiG-31 interceptors with transponders turned off and no flight plan entered Estonian airspace. They were in Estonia for about 12 minutes. F-35s from Italy on the Baltic Air Policing duty intercepted them and escorted them out. Estonia summoned the Russian ambassador and, like Poland, requested Article 4 consultations. Moscow denied everything, claiming the jets were lawfully flying to Kaliningrad. 3 incidents, 3 different NATO members, but a clear pattern. Russia is probing, escalating in controlled doses, and seeing how far it can push without triggering Article 5, NATO's collective defence clause. So what exactly is Moscow testing? Firstly, NATO's air policing readiness. How fast can Italian F-35 scramble? How smoothly can Polish, Romanian, Finnish and Swedish radars coordinate? Every delay or hesitation teaches Russia something. Secondly, the alliance's decision-making. Both Poland and Estonia have invoked Article 4, which is about consultations, not immediate military retaliation. Russia is mapping out how quickly NATO capitals react, and whether they speak with one voice. Thirdly, rules of engagement. Romania's choice not to shoot down the drone revealed something critical. NATO is still cautious about peacetime engagements. For Russia, that's intelligence gold. Fourth, sensor coverage. By flying with their transponders off and hugging airspace seams, Russia can test where NATO radars overlap and where they don't. And lastly, the narrative battle space. Russia immediately denies every violation, even when NATO radars are released. These denials aren't aimed at convincing the West. They're aimed at shaping domestic audiences, sowing doubt, and conditioning NATO publics to accept grey zone provocations as the new normal. This is a classic Russian reflexive control. They use ambiguous, deniable actions to shape how your opponent thinks, forcing them to second-guess their own responses. These incursions aren't random. They line up with Zapad 2025, Russia's massive military exercise in Belarus. Historically, Zapad is accompanied by spikes in probing activity. They also fit into the broader hybrid toolkit: the destruction of undersea infrastructure in the Baltics, cyber intrusions, and disinformation campaigns that flare up right after these incidents. Strategically, Russia is trying to pressure NATO's eastern flank, especially the Baltics and Poland. They want to test whether NATO's new posture, like Operation Eastern Century, is more bark than bite, and ultimately, to make low-level incursions so common that the alliance risks becoming numb to them. That normalization is dangerous because it erodes deterrence. However, NATO hasn't stood still. After Poland invoked Article 4, the alliance launched Operation Eastern Century, reinforcing air, maritime and ground forces along the eastern flank. Baltic Air Policing reacted quickly to the Estonian incursion, and NATO has boosted surveillance over critical infrastructure such as undersea cables and pipelines. The member states have been vocal too. Poland tightened its airspace. Romania clarified its legal right to down drones in peacetime, and Estonia signalled that it will act decisively if this happens again. Meanwhile, the UK and others condemned Russia at the OSCE and pledged full support for their NATO allies. But whether these moves are enough depends on one thing: NATO's cohesion. If Moscow senses hesitation or division, these incursions will continue and likely escalate. The risks here are real. If NATO doesn't impose costs, Russian drones and jets could become a constant, accepted presence in Allied skies. A miscalculation, say debris falling on civilians in Poland, could spark rapid escalation. Moscow thrives on exploiting jurisdictional grey zones and differences in national rules of engagement. Future air probes may come alongside cyber attacks or maritime incidents, compounding the pressure. So what are the indicators NATO are looking for? Firstly, more flights with their transponders off near the Gulf of Finland, drones swarming during NATO meetings, and unusual Russian vessel activity near undersea infrastructure. So what? The bottom line here is Russia's September incursions are highly likely deliberate, calculated tests of NATO defences and political will. If the alliance wants to deter further aggression, it will need clear red lines, faster unified responses, and integrated defences across air, sea and cyber. Because in the grey zone, hesitation isn't just weakness, it's an invitation. I've been your host Daniel, and this is HM Intelligence. Make sure to let us know your thoughts down below, and we'll see you again next week. See you!